welcome to the Laugh or Cry podcast. This has been a crazy year, as the last 2-3 have been. And I was really hoping this one would be better, but guess what? 2022 has just kicked us all in the teeth with the deaths, the celebrity deaths, not even counting the sports deaths. These are just the regular old, oh my God, what? They died? So this is our homage to those people. And forgive my dog, he snores. People who've died, notably Queen Elizabeth. I mean, which she's in her 90s. Now, some of these people are older. So, of course, natural death for the most part. But it's still, a little shocking that they've gone. Madeleine Albright, who was our first female Secretary of State, dead. Loretta Lynn. No one didn't like Loretta Lynn. I met her once at a Mark Colley celebrity race thing. And I was sitting in the aisles, in the seats. And here she comes, the row in front of me. She's sitting kind of catty-corner to me. And someone a few seats down from me sneezes. She whips out her purse, pulls out a tissue and says, "Here, honey, you forgot that this was Loretta Lynn. You thought this was like your aunt giving you a tissue." She's the sweetest woman ever. Jerry Lee Lewis, now he did marry a 13-year-old that happened to be his cousin. Kind of creepy, but he also made some amazing music. As did Mickey Gilley that we lost this year. Now, somebody that you might know if you've seen him. You definitely would know him if you heard him. Leslie Jordan. So funny. I had the pleasure of meeting him once, too. I saw him in Southern Baptist Sissies, a play by Del Shores in Los Angeles. And he and Dale Dickey just stole the play. They were hilarious and so graceful when they were meeting everybody afterwards. My friend had sent me a Flat Stanley because she was working in a teacher's office. And the thing about Flat Stanley is you take them places and see how far they can go. So I took him, of course, to the beach to see the Hollywood sign, and we took him to this play. And Leslie and Dale were great because they took pictures with Flat Stanley. Amazing. And I've got a really weird laugh, and evidently Leslie liked my laugh. I kind of can't help that. But some amazing comedians that died this year. Legendary Louis Anderson, cancer. Loved him. The amazing Jonathan. He'd been having a lot of health problems. Died in his sleep, heart failure. I say if you're going to die, that's how I want to go in my sleep. I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to know about it. Just be done. The way to go. But amazing magician comedian. Bob Saget. Oh my gosh. Gallagher. And Judy Tenuta. The Love Goddess. These were two that just happened, it seems. Out of nowhere. Now, granted, they're all getting up there in age. But, I mean, they still seem like they weren't old enough to die. Like Gilbert Gottfried. I mean, that is a voice you know. You will never, ever forget that voice. Gone. If you watch soap operas, John Aniston, Victor Kiriakis on Days of Our Lives, he passed away on November 11th. Wow. Like, they haven't even done a tribute to him that I've seen yet. And he's still on the show as far as we know. Oh, broke my heart. And if you watch General Hospital, Epiphany Johnson, Sonia Eddy, she just died a few days ago of an infection, they couldn't control this infection that she'd gotten from like a pre-surgery surgery thing, like not a big deal, allegedly. And she gets this infection and dies. And they were just working on a really good storyline that I was hoping she was going to become a doctor, and she was kind of like flirty with another character, but now gone. In the line of comedians and comedian background, George Shapiro. Now, he might not be a guy you know, but he managed Jerry Seinfeld. He was one of the helped create that. Andy Kaufman, he managed him. And if you've ever seen Man on the Moon, Danny DeVito plays him. And he's the sweetest guy you'll ever meet. He went to a few of my shows in Los Angeles, and I even had dinner with him and some writers one night. and we played basketball in the backyard. I mean, he's just the sweetest man you ever know. And he died earlier this year, and I didn't know about it. So when I found out, I was crying like a little baby. Bud Friedman, one of the creators of the Improv, I mean, produced everything. Bud Friedman, that was a big blow to comedy as well. Estelle Harris, speaking of the Seinfeld, she played George's mom, and she was also Mrs. Potato Head in the Toy Story. Liz Sheridan, who played Jerry's mom, she also died in her sleep this year. Ivan Reitman also died in his sleep. Now this guy, I remember writing him a letter when I was in 7th grade. He produced Animal House and Ghostbusters. You've definitely seen his movies. The legendary, one and only, Sidney Poitier died this year. And I just love saying his name, Sidney Poitier. This is the first black man to win an Oscar. You've seen him probably in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, Raisin in the Sun. I mean, you're not going to get a finer actor than that man, and we lost him this year. In music, God, we've taken some hits in music this year. Mark Lanigan, if you weren't a Generation X person, a kid of the 90s, you might not know this band, Screaming Trees, but he was the lead singer, passed. A few months later, Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for the Foo Fighters, and he used to be drummer for Alanis Morissette. He dies suddenly while they were on tour. Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac, she died just a month or so ago. Meatloaf, he died. John Alex Such, he was one of the original members of Bon Jovi. He dies. Ronnie Spector, she dies. Aaron Carter, he was in one of those boy bands. I don't know if it was Backstreet or... Anyway, he dies. Suicide. And also, Naomi Judd. Suicide. This tells you, it doesn't matter how successful on the outside you may be. It doesn't matter how much money you may have. That doesn't control what's going on in here. So, the pain is so awful. If you've never had depression or anxiety, you don't know. And so many people are like, oh, you just have to make yourself be happy. Wow, is it that easy? Is that all I have to do? Oh, if it was that easy, there would be no depression. Now, this is something where the chemicals are not firing right in your brain. And she took her own life, as did Aaron. Jason David Frank, Irene Cara, Olivia Newton-John. I mean, we're talking, wow, some famous musicians. And then actors. Howard Hessman, Johnny Fever on WKRP in Cincinnati. He died this year. Bob from Sesame Street. This is our childhood. This is starting to rock our fibers. Bob died this year. Sally Kellerman, you may not know the name, but she was Hot Lips Houlihan on MASH, the movie. Not the TV show, but the movie MASH that came out in the 70s. Johnny Brown, Buffalo Butt on Good Times, he died this year. Bookman. Mitchell Ryan, he was the dad in Dharma and Greg, done a ton of things. He died this year. Sacheen Littlefeather. Now, she, if you remember 1972, was actually 73, and The Godfather was getting tons of awards for Best Picture, Best Actor, what have you. Marlon Brando had won the award. But instead of coming, he was going to let her do the acceptance speech, and she talked about how Native Americans were not being represented well in the film industry and just in general. We basically given Native Americans the boot throughout history. And she got boos. Can you imagine that? Clint Eastwood wanted to pop her, and so did the Duke. And I'm like, you fuckers, first of all, you know, I love you, Clint Eastwood, but fuck you. I think he's softened up over the years, but I'm like, nothing she said was wrong. Nothing she said was wrong. And probably it was because it was a woman saying it. And speaking of women groundbreakers, Nichelle Nichols, Star Trek, she died this year. I mean, some powerful women and just, God, our childhood, man. Angela Lansbury died this year. Murder, She Wrote. Kirstie Alley, which I know from Cheers. If you've seen Village of the Damned, the remake with Christopher Reeves, she's in it. Tony Dow, Leave It to Beaver, he died this year. Not the beaver, but the brother, Wally. Mike Haggerty, you'd know him if you saw him. It's not one of those names you would really remember, but he made some appearances on Friends. He was in Wayne's World, you know, when they're in the donut shop, and Ed is, he's saying, hey, you know, how's it going? Oh, it's awful. I got a pink slip, you know. He's the pink slip guy. Fred Ward, you've seen him in Tremors. You saw, he was the dad in Joe Dirt. Amazing actor gone. James Caan. If you don't know the name, you know him as Elf, you know, the dad in Elf, but he's been in everything. William Hurt, Children of a Lesser God, he died not long ago. Paul Sorvino, Tony Sirico, Ray Liotta, all the major mobster people died this year. It's like, that's half the cast of Goodfellas right there, dead. And, you know, honestly, Godfather too. I think James Caan was in that. Ray Liotta, oh, amazing and funny. That one really hurt. And bad guys. Louise Fletcher, Nurse Ratched. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. She died this year. Going back to music, Coolio. I mean, he wasn't that old. He was in his 50s maybe. Gone. Anne Hesh, which granted, she was a little bit high at the time, but still dead. And if you're a wrestling fan, I know there's probably more, but this is the one that I think of right away. Scott Hall. Razor Ramon. He died this year. So Merry fucking Christmas, everybody. Hopefully you are still alive and here to enjoy this. But man, think about all those who are not going to be with us, but hopefully in their music, in their movies, will still be with us and live on. But this just shows you don't know how long you've got on this earth. None of us do. I had my mammogram. Yeah, I had my yearly annual checkup. And they're like, hey, you need to go get your mammogram. And I probably hadn't had one in a couple of years. So I'm like, okay. So I got my booby smushing going on. And then I haven't heard from them. It's been 2 weeks. Hadn't heard back. And I'm thinking, well, I'm sure everything's all right. But usually they send a letter saying, you're good. Then I get the voicemail. You know, please, you're going to need to come back and get retested. And that was on like a Thursday, I think, that I talked to the office and made the appointment for next Monday. So I had the entire weekend to convince myself that I had breast cancer and was going to die. But it was good in a way because it made me realize, okay, there is a lot of stuff I still want to do. I have not traveled nearly as much as I want to, so that's going to become a priority for me hopefully this year. Like, I help people on their vacations, but I don't really go on as much vacations myself. So all this to say, with the deaths, that we have tons of deaths every year, of course. But man, we do not know how long we've got on this big blue planet. We don't even know how much longer this blue planet's going to be blue. So we need to take advantage of that. Hug the necks of the people you love. Take that trip you've been putting off. Learn that instrument that you say you're going to do and haven't done yet. I mean, just get shit done. I mean, because you don't know how much longer you've got here. So, enjoy yourself. Merry fucking Christmas. Happy Hanukkah Kwanzaa solstice. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. And Happy New Year. From me and my snoring dogs. This has been Laugh or Cry. Or as I should say today, Laugh or Die.